It begins with whispers, not the kind that come from mouths or voices carried through the air, but whispers that slide into the folds of the mind, curling around thoughts like smoke in a closed room. For the child who does not yet know what they are, it begins as nightmares, dreams of burning skies, shadows with teeth, endless corridors of screaming faces. At first, they try to dismiss it, as any frightened child would, but the voices grow louder. They begin to speak while the child is awake, muttering secrets, taunting, sometimes promising wonders if only the child will listen closely enough. Objects start to move without touch. Candles flicker when no wind is present. The family notices. Neighbors notice. Fear sets in. To be born a Psyker in the Imperium of man is not a gift. It is a curse, a sentence, a brand upon the soul. And so, sooner or later, the black ships come. The arrival of the black ships is the first taste of true horror for a young Psyker. They arabast silent vessels, dreaded by every world they visit. To ordinary citizens, they mean the harvest has come, that neighbors and loved ones will vanish and never return. To the Psyker, they mean chains, darkness, and an end to anything resembling normal life. The agents of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica do not knock politely. They take, with cold efficiency, binding the Psyker in iron and hexagramic wards, gagging them with devices that silence both mouth and mind. Familias weep, but they do not resist. For resisting the will of the black ships is resisting the Imperium itself, and that path leads only to execution. And so the Psyker is dragged away, one among thousands, hooded into the hold of a vessel where the air is thick with fear and the cries of the damned. The journey is long. The corridors echo with screams. Many never survive to see Terra, their minds breaking under the endless tide of voices that flood them now that their abilities are unshackled in proximity to others of their kind. When the black ship finally reaches Terra, the fate of most Psykers is sealed. The majority will never walk free again. They are marched in great columns, their eyes vacant, their bodies trembling, toward the altar of the Golden Throne. They will become fuel sacrificed to feed the Emperor's undying corpse, their souls consumed in agony so that his beacon, the Astronomicon, may continue to shine across the galaxy. Tens of thousands die every day in this way, snuffed out like candles in the void, and not one voice is raised in protest. It is necessary, Teara, told. Their suffering preserves humanity, and yet for those who feel the flames licking at their souls, necessity offers little comfort. For every 1,000 Psykers gathered, perhaps one will be spared this fate. Those rare few are chosen to be trained, broken, molded into weapons for the Imperium. The Scholastia Sicana is not a school. It is a crucible, a place where fear and discipline are hammered into terrified youths, until nothing remains but obedience and power. Here Psykers are taught to wield their abilities under strict control, always with the knowledge that one slip, one moment of weakness, may open the door to something far worse than death. The warp hungers, and Psykers are its windows into real space. For every fire they conjure, every mind they read, every vision they receive, there is a demon pressing at the glass, waiting to claw its way through. The instructors make this lesson clear in blood. They do not shield their students from the consequences of failure. When one loses control and something unspeakable manifests, the others are forced to watch as their peers torn apart, or possessed, or burned alive by sanctioning squads. Fear becomes as natural as breathing. The lesson is simple. You are never safe, not even in your own mind, and even if they survive their training, a Psyker is never free. Their lives are chains, their roles dictated by the needs of the Imperium. Some are sent to the Astra Militarum, forced to stand among guardsmen who look upon them with suspicion and hatred. To their comrades, a Psyker is not a brother in arms, but a liability, a ticking bomb that may at any moment erupt into demonic horror. Psykers fight not only the enemy but the constant mistrust of those they are meant to serve beside. In the trenches, their powers become tools of terror bolts of lightning, tearing through heretics. Minds crushed into pulp, visions that predict the enemy's movements. Yet every use of such power comes at a price. Too much strain, and their bodies burn from within, their eyes bleeding, their veins glowing with unnatural light until they collapse. Lifeless husks, too little control, and something on the other side of the veil notices. A battle may end with victory, but the Psyker may not survive to see it. Worse still is life under the Inquisition. To be noticed by an Inquisitor is both an honor and a death sentence. Sanctioned Psykers serve as tools, their abilities exploited to sniff out heresy, interrogate prisoners, or tear secrets from unwilling minds. Their masters never trust them, keeping both pistols close at hand, ready to execute their servant at the first sign of corruption. Psykers who fall under the sway of demons, even for a moment, are destroyed without hesitation. There is no forgiveness, no redemption, only a cleansing flame. Even those who serve loyally, faithfully, are disposed of when their usefulness wanes. An Inquisitor sees a Psyker not as a human being, but as a dangerous device, one that will eventually fail, catastrophically. Better to break it first than risk the explosion. Yet the greatest horror of a Psyker's life is not the Imperium's cruelty, but the warp itself. No other human sees what they see, feels what they feel, hears the things that claw endlessly at their sanity. Every moment, every breath, is accompanied by a chorus of whispers, 1,000 hungry voices pressing against the thin membrane of the mind. Sometimes they are seductive, offering promises of power, freedom, pleasure beyond imagining. Sometimes they are cruel, screaming blasphemies, mocking, twisting memories of loved ones into grotesque parodies. And sometimes they are simply alien, incomprehensible sounds that shred the mind simply by existing. Sleep offers no refuge. Dreams are twisted landscapes where demons stalk openly, their claws dripping, their eyes burning with eternal hunger. To close your eyes as a Psyker is to step into hell willingly, night after night. There are moments, brief and terrible, when the veil grows thin, when the warp presses close enough to tear. A Psyker may find themselves staring into another world, a place where reality melts, where time coils, where creatures of impossible shape leer from the darkness. For a normal human, such visions would mean instant madness. For a Psyker, they are everyday life. To hold on to sanity requires iron will, constant prayer, and the knowledge that at any moment, the thin wall could collapse and unleash horrors upon everything nearby. A Psyker does not fear death. Death would be release. What they fear is becoming a gateway, a living door through which the warp may spill, dooming all around them. That fear never leaves, gnawing at the core of their soul, and to the very concept of hope becomes alien. And so the life of a Psyker is not a life at all. It is a long, slow descent into exhaustion, fear, and inevitable destruction. They are hated by those they serve, hunted by the powers of the warp, and enslaved by the Imperium they are forced to protect. To be born a Psyker is to be condemned from the first breath, doomed to a fate worse than death. Some try to endure, clinging to faith, to loyalty, to duty. Others break their minds shattering under the strain, their bodies torn apart by forces they cannot control. A few embrace the whispers, surrendering to the dark promises that have haunted them since childhood, and in doing so, damn themselves forever. But no Psyker dies free. No Psyker dies unscarred. And when the final moment comes, when the warp claws its way through the mind and drags the soul screaming into its abyss, there is only one truth left. They were never human. They were never whole. They were always prey, always fuel, always tools in a galaxy that knows only fear.